समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. Hari Om everyone. So you might be wondering, where are we going with this all topic flow? Today I started Srishti Vichara and Srishti Vada. I just wanted to remind everyone, we are following the same sequence that we started with. So you see what all we covered so far? Vedanta Shastra Vishaya we covered. First day. What are the topics of Vedanta, Anubandha Chatushtaya, all of that comes there. Veda Swarupa we saw, Veda Vishaya, Veda Pramanyam, Jiva Swarupa, Karma Siddhanta, Punarjanma, Jivagati, Bandha Moksha, Srishti Vichara, and Srishti Swarupa. That is where we are right now. Okay, Srishti Vadaha. What I presented in the last session, technically there are different ways of looking at it. It's called Arambhavada, Vivarta, Parinama, Ajata. All those are technical names, but in one session you cannot have all of those covered together. We just saw the essence of what is being said in all these different, explanations about creation. And I also know if you are attending such a topic for the first time, you will have no clue what is being spoken about. Okay. But the good news is, it is the same thing that is going to be said every time. So no matter which Upanishad you open about creation, same idea will come there. Different words might be there, different approach might be there, but it is not going to be something totally different. So like this, when we continue to do this Shravanam, right, all these ideas fall in place, and that is what we should try to do. Hold on to Upanishads and try to see what are they trying to tell us. Okay. So where we had left off was we saw the relative idea about creation. Now we were looking at what is the absolute idea of creation. Idea or nature. Nature is a better word than saying idea. What is the absolute nature of creation? What is it that Vedanta wants to tell us about creation? So then we saw this point, that consciousness alone has become the sentient cause, like that painter. And material also is the same consciousness alone. Means everything that I'm seeing around is nothing but consciousness. Now somebody asks, how did this consciousness become sentient cause? How did it become material cause? This is called Parinami Karana. Parinami means when change has happened, actually, one thing has transformed into the other, you cannot get it back. Okay, that is called as Parinami. But Vedanta says consciousness has not become creation in that way. It has become Vivarta. That is where we added the word Vivarta, means one thing is appearing as another without actually undergoing any change. But remember, most importantly, you can show it with your hands. I will ask a question. When you say desert sand and mirage water, are there two things or is there one thing? Thank you. When you say rope and snake, are there two things or is there one thing? That is what Vedanta wants to tell us, that when we say Brahman and creation, there are no two things, there is only one thing. Okay, Adhisthana, the substratum alone, is appearing as this entire creation. Example, we should hold on to very precisely. If you take any other example, then lot of struggle will happen. How did this consciousness become different? And always take examples of illusion. Illusion is not the right word, superimposition. Okay. Illusion also you can say. Illusion means there is a substratum. It is not just saying that there is nothing. Okay, you are seeing water, but there is a substratum which is what is real. That is what we mean by illusion or superimposition. So names and forms are appearing, but there is only one substratum, which is consciousness. Now this is elaborated in different texts. Okay, what we saw in Drigdrishya Viveka. This is the same wave from Drigdrishya. Same slide I took. What is the definition of creation? That is the perfect definition. Huh? Whenever we want one place to go to, right? We should go to Drigdrishya Viveka, 14th verse. Srushtir nama brahma rupe satchidananda vastuni. That this creation is nothing but of the nature of consciousness. It is appearing different, yes, the same way as that mirage water appears, very different from that desert sand. Srushtir nama brahma rupe satchidananda vastuni. Example is given, abdhau phenadivat sarva nama rupa prasarana. There are so many waves and foam and everything in that water, but it is just another name of water, nama rupa. It is given a name because it has some form, but it is not different from that water. This is what Vedanta wants to tell us. There is nothing called as creation different from consciousness. Appearance of names and forms in consciousness. And this more and more we dwell, that first thing what we saw, right? Why do we need to think about creation? If I only think about aham, I only think about who am I, then I will think this creation is different from me. Even if I understand myself as consciousness, if I have not thought about creation, this gap will always remain, that I'll be with always wrestling, with the world outside. And Vedanta wants to tell us what you are seeing is nothing but consciousness. Now another little bit more elaboration of this point. This also we had seen in the Drigdrishya Viveka class. What did Swamiji say? Vidyaranya Swamiji, who has composed Drigdrishya Viveka, that abdhau phenadivat sarva nama rupa prasarana. In this water alone, everything is appearing, this foam, waves, everything. So just like in this particular scene you see, right, there is a wave which is there. There is a whirlpool which might be there. There are bubbles which are there. And there can be foam. Everything is there. But all of this is water alone appearing in different form. That wave by itself is not another entity. Right? It is water alone which is appearing as another form. In the same way, it is said this entire creation that we are seeing around us. Right? It starts all the way from 5 elements. First of all, we can take it in systematic way, step by step. This is called as Laya Prakriya. It is a technical concept, but it is not very difficult to understand. All names and forms that we see through our eyes or whatever we take, they can be narrowed down into 5 elements. Right? You call it the periodic table or whichever elements you want to call it. This creation is nothing but these 5 elements put together. Space, air, fire, water, earth. Combination of that is what we call as this creation. This itself takes time, because Nama Rupa sometimes is so enchanting that we are not able to go to the substratum. What is the ingredient from which all this is made? So one step is it is made from these 5 elements. Now the question is, where did these 5 elements come from? That is where we started. Here we should take support of Upanishad. That is the mantra which will be our, the starting point. Whenever topic of creation is discussed, we cannot use logic directly. Tatpada Vichara it is called. Whenever creation is discussed, we always have to go back to Upanishad mantras. So this is one of that mantra where it is said, Yato va imani bhutani jayante. It is that consciousness from which all these jivas and this entire creation has come about. Yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. Means it is the same consciousness in which these names and forms arise, they stay, and that is where they go back into. Same question we can ask here also. Where does the wave that has risen go back? If it has risen from water, that wave goes back into water. Creation has come about from consciousness, it goes back into consciousness. When we say goes back, we should remember the relative idea. Avirbhava, Tirobhava. It manifests and it goes back. This thinking, more and more we do. One is, our vision about creation changes. And it is said it doesn't happen right away because we are not used to thinking in this way. It takes a lot of time even to come to this understanding that this creation has consciousness as its substratum. Chaitanya Purvika Iyam Srushti. Iyam Srushti means this creation has consciousness as its root. That is our absolute idea. What is the absolute idea? There are no two things. There is only one thing which is appearing as this creation. And if it's an appearance, you can say it is only the substratum. Every time if we keep saying that there is desert sand also and there is mirage water also, that means we are giving reality to mirage water, right? So in the same way, we should understand this. Now somebody says, all your examples are good. I understand this, rope becoming snake and this desert sand becoming mirage water. But I am more interested in consciousness. How did this one consciousness come to become this variety of things in this creation? No discussion of creation can be complete without a discussion on Maya. Okay, that topic has to come. We saw it in one way in our Drigdrishya Viveka class. We will see elaboration of it over here. So Maya, whenever we discuss, the question that comes up is, if consciousness is changeless, how has creation come about from that unchanging, changeless consciousness? And this is where the top point of Maya is introduced. Maya, it is said, is the creative power of the Lord. Right? Consciousness with Maya Shakti becomes this entire creation. What we generally sometimes use the word as Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is consciousness, Prakriti is Maya. And in Puranas, they are narrated as different forms. Right? Bhagwan Rama, Mother Sita. So like this, Prakriti Purusha, they are depicted for our easy comprehension. We will not go into different schools of thoughts, how they define this. We are more concerned with Vedanta. So in Vedanta, if we just understand what is Maya, simple definition is, it is the creative power of the Lord. And sometimes people think that Maya is a word which Bhagwan Shankaracharya has introduced. You must have heard the word Mayavadi. They use this word called as Mayavadi. And I was surprised, sometimes even high schoolers ask me this, are we Mayavadi? I say, where did you hear this word? Mayavadi. And Maya is not a word introduced by Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji. It is a word which comes in Upanishad. So Shvetashvetra Upanishad, there is this mantra which says, Mayam tu prakritim vidyat, Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. Means understand this Maya is that Prakriti, what has brought about this creation, but it is not independent. There is a wielder of this Prakriti, which is consciousness. Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. That is the source. Whenever we hear the word Maya, we should understand that it is not another word which Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji has coined. And most importantly, our purpose is not to establish Maya. If you try to inquire too much into nature of Maya, it is Maya, right? It will not allow us to inquire. Any ignorance is like that. When we say we want to inquire into Maya Shakti, it is said it is only an explanation given for us to understand what is happening here. Purpose of Vedanta is to say there is only Brahma. So if we get caught up in between while trying to understand Maya, you will keep getting entangled more and more. So best way is to understand how it is given, but most importantly, see how to come out of Maya. That is what we want, right? We don't want to establish Maya. We want to know how to come out of Maya. So briefly, we will look at the two powers of Maya. Okay, one is called as Avarana Shakti. Gurudev used to call it as non-apprehension. Non-apprehension of what? Non-apprehension of my true nature as pure consciousness. That is the power of Maya. Okay, first it veils what is this pure consciousness. If I don't know something, it is okay. It doesn't stop there. It also projects. That is called as Vikshepa Shakti. Okay, this we, in Gurudev's word, it is misapprehension. Not only there is non-apprehension, there is also misapprehension. So if I did not know myself as consciousness, I could have stopped there. But I don't stop there. I take myself as something else. This mind, this body, all of that is power of this Maya. And because I don't know my nature as consciousness, it is a result of that is this, Vikshepa, what is happening. Mind gets projected, world gets projected, body gets projected, and we end up identifying with those things. Now, if you go back into the question, when did the first misidentification happen? That is the power of Maya. It will keep you in that loop. You will get into a cyclical loop. All our Mahatmas have said that use logic to come out of Maya. Okay, don't get caught up there, because that is the nature of ignorance. You cannot pinpoint where is the starting point. And our purpose is not to find answers to those questions. Purpose is to say, where am I right now? How can I come out of it? So one small portion from Bhagavad Gita we will see. The definition of Maya, what Bhagwan gives in Bhagavad Gita is, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Okay, Daivi means what we just saw. It is not independent, that creative power. It is not independent, it is dependent on consciousness. Lot of things can happen within Maya. What we call as evolution, what we call as expansion, and everything that will take place within the realm of Maya. But it is not happening on its own. There is a sentient power behind it. That is called Daivi. Okay, that word. Now the word he, Daivi, Hiesha, right? So that word Hiesha splits as he and Esha. So that he means it is inferred from its effects. Means Maya you cannot directly try to see with your eyes. We cannot try to objectify Maya. All that we can do is we can infer it. Infer also is a compromised word, but I think it's good for now. It is called Arthapatti Pramana. We can only infer based on its effects. Means effects we are seeing, right? I feel that ignorance in me. I feel I am this body. I see this entire world that has come about. And I cannot deny that fact, right? It is just systematically explaining what all these things are, where it has all come from. Esha means it becomes known. It becomes known to consciousness. Sakshi Pratyaksha. It is known to consciousness. That is why it is called as an known entity. Not known through physical eyes, known through consciousness. Sakshi Pratyaksha. Gunamayi, this is the most important part I want to come to. It is made up of, or it is three gunas, not made up of. Three gunas itself is called as Maya. What are the three gunas? Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. Right? Whenever I feel dull, that is called Tamo guna. Rajoguna is when I feel very agitated. Mind is just jumping from one thing to another. Sattva guna is when mind is calm. One thing we should note here is gunas don't only function at the level of body or mind. Some of you might have studied Tattva Bodha, right? That is why a lot of elaboration is needed whenever we go into these topics. This creation, what is it said? It is tamasic aspect of Panchamahabhuta. Right? Panchikarana, what we study, that has come about from tamasic aspect. So what we are seeing as gross objects, they are nothing but tamasic aspect of these gunas. From rajasic aspects, all our sense organs have come about. And from sattvic aspect, all our organs of perceptions have come about, and mind, antakarana, has come out from total sattvic aspect. Don't worry if you're not getting any of these. I'm just trying to point out that it is not limited to only saying that tamoguna means a dull mind, rajoguna means an agitated mind, and sattvaguna means calm mind. Basically, what we should understand when we study creation is this entire creation is a product of gunas. Okay, that is the main point. Elaboration you will see in whichever text we study, how this creation is described. Panchikarana, one becoming many, all of that is an elaboration of this. But most importantly, what binds us is Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Sometimes I feel entire Mahabharata is a description of what happens when Rajoguna combines with Tamoguna. Right? Whatever is the emotion of Duryodhana and whatever things happen, that is this combination. Okay? Agitation along with ignorance. But where the problem is, in the same place, Bhagwan has kept solution also. And that solution is Sattva Guna. Pandavas also had weakness. They also had Rajas, they also had Tamas. But not allowing Rajas and Tamas to overpower them. Okay, Sattva should dominate Rajas and Tamas. Those two gunas should be invoked when we want, and we should be able to let go of them when we want. Right? That is the power of these three gunas, that Sattva should be main in charge. Pandava's side, the one who was the epitome of Sattva was Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira was the in charge. Kaurava's side also had Sattva. Who was it? Vidurji. Incarnation of Sattva on Kaurava's side was Vidurji. But Vidurji only kept talking and none of his opinion was heard. Means Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they decide what should be the decision. Sattva Guna is quietened. That is this inner Mahabharata, that takes place. So that is the role of Maya that we should take a look at. And last is, it is difficult to cross over. Mama Maya Duratyaya. Okay. But how to cross over? Bhagwan has said this only, that keeping our mind in sattvic things. All inputs that go in, if they are sattvic, then mind automatically becomes sattvic. Ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi. Sattva means mind. Ahara, whatever is going in. Not only through food, but all other inputs. If they are sattvic, this mind automatically becomes contemplative. That mind is able to seek for something higher and absorb things very easily. That is the power of a sattvic mind. Just this verse we saw, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Bhagwan says this is my Maya, means consciousness is presiding over it. It is not independent. But most importantly, we should know how to come out of it. Effects, we are seeing it in our daily life. That is why this explanation is given, so that we can come out of it. If we question the explanation itself, Vedanta says we will never have a doorway into the truth. Right? If we try to question existence of Maya, then the question we should always ask is, what about the effects that we are seeing? We will be left with no solution to go to where Vedanta wants us to go. Okay, that is why it's a systematic flow of thought. Now, somebody might ask, what is it that brings bondage then? Right? We say, is creation by itself a bondage? Now, if you have understood the nature of creation, then something interesting comes out. Now, we said Avarana Shakti, right? This veiling power of Maya hides the nature of consciousness. And then because of that, Vikshepa happens. This entire creation is projected, everything happens. But the interesting point here is, Vikshepa Shakti by itself is not a cause of bondage. Means this creation, the names and forms that we see, is not by itself a cause of bondage. Cause of bondage is when we don't know that it is of the nature of consciousness. We have not discussed Mahavakya yet, but ultimately what this whole comes up, what this point comes to is, this creation is of the nature of consciousness, and I am also of the nature of consciousness, right? Two inquiries we do. One is about ourselves, one is about creation. Then we realize that what I am calling as creation is nothing but me, myself. Me meaning consciousness, not ahankara, not body. If I'm able to understand my nature as consciousness and also know that this creation has come about from consciousness, then I will realize this entire thing, what is appearing, is me, myself. Having known that, Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti happens. Right? That I am only appearing as this entire creation. What is there to get from this creation now? Ananda, what we call, right? In Vedanta, that is this kind of Ananda. Initially, I thought there was this object which was different than me. I am this individual who is going to enjoy that object. But now I realize I am not this individual, I am consciousness. And this object is also not another object. It is of the nature of consciousness. Who will enjoy what? That is where this inquiry leads us to. That again we will discuss later. But every time we discuss something, it should always come back here. Otherwise, you feel that why are we discussing all these things? So the takeaway from this is creation by itself is not a bondage. Not knowing that it is of the nature of consciousness, that is where all problem starts. I feel I am different and this creation is something different. It becomes a bhogya vastu. Bhogya means an object of enjoyment or experience, something that I have to get from it. That is where this whole thinking leads us to. Now, whenever we talk about creation, the question naturally leads into creator. We touched upon this point, but again, if we go through it, hopefully it makes more sense. Whenever we talk about creation, the question naturally comes is, who is the creator? And what is my relationship with that creator? That we will see now. Now, somebody might ask, why do we need to think about Ishvara? Can't we just, skip to the next topic? So this point also we saw earlier, that whenever we see something which is happening, some organized creation that has come about, there has to be somebody who is responsible for it. And if I am part of that organization, I better know who is it. Right? So for example, if you see, some factories there or some industries there, which has all this infrastructure and everything is there. Now, we cannot say that this thing which is there came about by itself. Somebody must have thought about it. Somebody must have put it together. Now you see people who are working for that company, right? All of them are there. Now we cannot say that they have randomly come together and they are just, doing something. There must be somebody who has employed these people They cannot self-employ themselves. And there is somebody who has brought up this infrastructure, right? Creation. So that person is the CEO. If I am working for that company, I better know the CEO, right? Even if I directly don't report to him or not, at least I know who is the one who is taking care of this whole thing. So now, if you look at creation also in a similar thought, Jiva and Jagat are the effects, right? We see that there are Jivas which are there, and there is this creation which is there. Just like there are people working in that firm, and then there is this infrastructure which is there. Means inert and sentient. Okay, that is what we are trying to compare here. There has to be the cause. Okay, who is Ishvara? Now, what kind of cause and everything which you have already seen before? Abhinna, Nimitta, Karana, Vivarta and all. But this thinking has to keep happening that whenever there is an effect, there has to be a cause. And Gurudev, in a lot of his quotes, he mentions this point. This is one of my favorite quote, which says, universe is not a chaos, it is a cosmos. Everything is happening in a very systematic order. So there has to be a creator. And interestingly, the second part of that quote, he says, there is no redundancy in Lord's creation. Not even a single blade of grass is unnecessarily created. This point also, we can just register for now. It builds in another block later. Okay, that everything in this creation has a certain role to play. It has a certain purpose. Okay, but main point here is that wherever we see effect, there has to be a cause who is Ishvara. Now somebody might ask this question, what is the role of Ishvara? So generally, what is the answer that we have? Ishvara is karma phala data. This we saw earlier also, right? Bhagwan gives results of actions. When we saw about karma. Do you remember that point? That rain was there, the cloud we said is Ishvara parjanyavad drashtavyaha. Look at Ishvara as one who gives results of all action. Now somebody has an objection. He says, why do we need Ishvara to give results of actions? Now what are the options that we have? Let us say the first option is karma. Okay, the action itself gives the result. So then it is said, action is inert by itself. How can it decide when the result should come and to whom that result should go? The moment we finish an action, it might take several years sometimes for that result of action to come back. Now, action by itself is an inert thing. It cannot decide who is the recipient of this result of action and at what point it should come. Okay, so karma cannot be the giver of results of action because it is inert by itself. Okay, you say, okay, karma is not, because you say it is inert, that cannot give result of action. What about Jiva? Jiva is sentient. Can Jiva give result of action? That is the second option. Jiva giving result of action is like saying that I am promoting myself. If I am part of an organization, I can give whatever result I want to me. Right? So there are some flaws that come in there also. Jiva cannot give result of action because one is Jiva's knowledge is limited. Which action should give which result, at what point it should give result. All of those things Jiva does not have complete knowledge about. Okay, that is why Jiva cannot give results of action. Second is, if Jiva could decide that Jiva will never ask for unfavorable results. No matter what I have written for my exam, I will always say, I want an A+. Because Jiva is deciding a result of action. So Jiva would never ask for Anishta Phala. Anishta means that result which I don't like. Okay, this is the second fallacy which will come. Third is, there could be two jivas who are asking for different results at the same time. Okay. One jiva says there should be rain. Now another jiva, there is a celebration going on. That jiva says there should be no rain. So if jiva themselves could decide what is the result of action, then one jiva can ask for one result, another jiva can ask for another result. Even in a sports game, right? You have few jivas asking for this team to win and few jivas asking for another team to win. That is why it is said, jiva cannot decide result of this action. There has to be Ishvara based on jiva's karma will bring these results of action. Okay, both aspects have to go together. Because of karma done by jiva, based on what has been done in the past, prarabdha also will keep interfering. That point we saw, right? Number of times I have hit that nail. Based on all of that, account has to be kept. Somebody intelligent has to be there to do this cloud computing from the previous action and this action, and then give me what is my current result. And Bhagwan's system is not flawed in this. If we understand this point, right, then we will understand one more shloka of Bhagavad Gita, which is this one. Karmani eva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. What Bhagwan says here is, anyway, you cannot control the result, right? You can only focus on what your action has to be now. Do good actions, leave everything to me. That is this point, right? Results of action cannot be controlled by karmas. Results of action cannot be controlled by jiva also. It is by Ishvara who will give us those results of action. Karma phala data, this is the concept. Okay. All these concepts are such, I know there are many questions that rise. One point you mentioned, there are 10 other points that rise, which is good. Let us keep thinking about this and gradually, we'll get more, we'll together reflect on this more. Now, the most important question is, okay, you said Bhagwan is there, he is the CEO of this creation and everything. What is my relationship with Bhagwan? That also I should know, right? So the best answer is, as jiva, as an finite individual, Bhagwan is our boss, okay? That is whom we call as Ishvara. All that we can say is, Bhagwan is, we are part of that total. Okay, we are that brick in the wall, in that big wall that is there, we are just one brick. And more we can understand this point, tune up with this point, more will be our surrender unto Bhagwan. Vedanta, when it says Jiva is Brahma, what is expected there is, I have understood my nature as consciousness, and Brahman is of the nature of consciousness. That consciousness I am. Vedanta never says, with body identification, with mind identification, I say I am Ishvara. Okay, this was a very important point that Guruji had made. He said Vedanta says Jiva is Brahma, not Jiva is Ishvara. And oneness is always pointed out at consciousness level. In our transactions, we cannot operate at consciousness level, right? So in our transactions, best relationship which we can have is that of a dasa. Right? I am the part, Bhagwan, you are the whole. Now that part could be of any part. If I want knowledge in my life, I am that part of this knowledge and you are the whole. May you bless me with more knowledge. Calmness of the mind, I have little, you have lot of it. Bhagwan, may you bless me with what you have. Because we saw, right, Bhagwan is Sarva Shaktiman, all Sarva, all Total upadhis, they go with Bhagwan. Alpa goes with Jiva. And the best thing here is we can choose what our relationship, whichever relationship we want with Bhagwan. The mask that we wear, Bhagwan says, I will wear also the same mask. This we saw in Ramcharitmanas, right? This is that beautiful chaupai that comes. जिनके रही भावना जैसी कैसी जिनके रही भावना जैसी प्रभु मूरति तिन देखी तैसी. This is that portion when Bhagwan Ramchandra ji enters into the court of Janak Maharaj. All of them who are seated there, they are looking at Bhagwan with different perspectives. Somebody who is a brave king, that person thinks that this Mahaparakrami, very valiant king has come who is going to defeat me now in this Swayamvara. Those who are Rishi Munis, they see Virata Rupa of Bhagwan. And those who have come there out of deceit, they see Kala has come now. That my time has come, that Bhagwan is going to finish all of us. But most importantly, whichever is our bhavana towards Bhagwan, Bhagwan says, I will appear in that way to uplift us. So we should, see what is our temperament, you call, or, bhavana that comes naturally to us. We can use that to connect with Bhagwan. But if you want one bhavana to start with, that is of dasa, which is common to all. There is no, specific rule saying that only somebody can be dasa, somebody cannot be. Anyone and everyone can be a dasa of Bhagwan. Bhagwan says, I will appear as Swami. And same Bhagwan will say, I will appear as Sakha also. Swami means master. Dasa is somebody who has surrendered, towards whom that person is the master. And Bhagwan says, I won't always remain as master, I will become friend also. Okay, that kind of support we should derive from our Ishta Devata. One form of Bhagwan we should relate to. Another example that is given is always stay connected to the source. What we are experiencing in our life is part of that total source. Right? We might turn on and off the switch, but bulb glows because of the electricity that is coming from the source, right? So more we are connected with that source, more is the strength we can derive in our life. Sometimes I feel, why I feel. It is written somewhere, I'm not remembering where it is, that Saguna Brahma is more difficult to understand than Nirguna Brahma. I'm blanking where I had read it, but it comes, I think, in the Ramcharitmanas or somewhere. That Saguna nature of Bhagwan does not happen only by listening, to the glories. Bhagwan's grace has to be there to understand how he is a part of our life. So that portion also we should keep thinking about as students of Vedanta. Both, conviction should come, Saguna form and Nirguna. And how will I know the nature of Bhagwan? This also keeps coming in several places. Nature of Bhagwan is known when we become the recipient for Bhagwan's grace to flow in us. Soi janai, jehi devu janai, janat tumahi, tumah hoi jai. This Valmiki ji tells Bhagwan Ramchandra ji that only those who have your grace, to whom you reveal your nature, they know you, and once they know you, they become you. So our role is to become that patra, right? All virtues and values that we bring in ourselves, Bhagwan says that person is my devotee. 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan says my devotee is the one who has all these values. To that person, I reveal myself. Right? Saguna form of Bhagwan is another beautiful topic to dwell upon. I remember one activity that our Swamiji had made us do while we studied Bhagavad Gita was to find all shlokas in Bhagavad Gita which talk about Saguna form of Bhagavan. Saguna form, huh? It could be as the creator, Niyanta, all the things that Bhagavan takes up as with attributes. Let us keep it simple. All of those, Swamiji had made us to underline from Bhagavad Gita. What it taught so many aspects about the Saguna form and how we connect with Bhagavan. Right? So that topic also we should think more and more. Now the sequence after this, right? The thought process is avatar of Bhagavan. This was just Ishvara topic that we discussed, right? Karma Phaladata and so on. Now we will go into what do we mean by avatara? Bhagavan has taken so many avatars, Krishna avatara, Rama avatara and so on. What exactly we mean by them? Okay? This we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.